Welcome to Into the Night. I'm Nari, your guide on today's excursion down a twisted path. Be careful not to get lost. Be it dark or light, it's easy to lose your way. Are you ready? Then let's begin. "10 Feet Tall and Bulletproof", Part 1. When my brother and I were boys, we lived in the less glamorous side of Las Vegas. The Strip with its glitz, gambling, and prostitutes seemed a million miles away from the life we knew. Our neighborhood most likely hadn't been shiny when it was new, and by the time Garret, our mother, and I moved in, any hint of luster was long gone. Our mom worked as a hostess at one of the casinos. It was older, but still considered nice, and it was a far cry from the penny slot joints that drew in some of the less desirable street elements. Because Garret and I were underage, we weren't welcome to see her during working hours, and she worked a lot of hours. The legal age restrictions on the casino goers made the Strip even more distant to us. As far as we were concerned, the casino was a magical place Mom drove to in the morning and came home from late at night. She frequently picked up extra shifts to bring in more money, so it wasn't uncommon for us to not even know what time she came home. Occasionally, we begged to be taken to see the lights, but that didn't happen often. "Mom, please!" "Boys, the last thing I want to do on my night off is go down there. Peace and quiet is what I need. I've seen all the flashing lights and heard all the slot machines dinging that I care to. Just let Mama rest." Dejected, we had to accept her decision. No one else was around to take us, and we wouldn't have known how to get there on our own if we tried. Our world consisted of home, school, and our neighborhood, but where we lived was safe, even if it was boring. We had the misfortune of living on a street without many other children, and none our age, so Garret and I were pretty much left on our own in a dull corner of Sin City. Our father, if he could be called that, left when Mom was pregnant with me. He abandoned her with a toddler and a baby on the way, announcing that fatherhood wasn't for him. Mom struggled to raise us, but the fault of our hardship was his, not hers. Either way, Garret and I spent most of our time alone together. Our solitude made us self-sufficient, and we tried not to take advantage of the freedom that we had. That meant staying out of trouble and not making spectacles of ourselves. If authorities ever found out we were two little kids by ourselves, we'd have been taken from the home, so we knew to keep our noses clean. Mom did her best, and the thought of going to a foster home terrified us. She was all we had, and we were all she had. It was our responsibility to make sure nothing took us from each other. We studied hard in school, avoided discipline issues, and fended for ourselves. Life was good. Garret and I were lucky in our estimation. We weren't even 2 years apart in age, and he never fell into the trap of treating me as a subordinate simply because he was older. We were best friends and playmates, and our lives were fairly harmonious. We enjoyed the same games and television shows, and we trusted each other completely. Not everyone can say that about their siblings, and we knew we had something special. When I was in 2nd grade and he was in 4th, our mom bought us bicycles. "You're old enough to pedal around the neighborhood and take yourselves to school. No crossing busy streets, though, understand?" Yes, Mom! We shouted and gave her big hugs. Looking back, we wouldn't feel the same sense of freedom again until we were old enough to drive and buy our own cars. We practically rode the wheels off those bikes. The feeling of a hot desert wind on our faces as we explored farther and farther from home each day thrilled us. I can still hear my brother's voice. "I'll race you to the park, Ty." Garret was off in a flash, and I was right behind him. I can't count the number of times he said this, and we would sail away on our bicycles to find adventure. After school, once we grabbed a snack at home, we made a habit of riding to that neighborhood park located a few blocks away. It probably wasn't the safest place for two little kids to hang out, and I can't imagine allowing two boys our age to go there alone these days. The world was a different place back then, though, and we believed we were safe. "This sure beats watching those stupid game shows or cartoon reruns. If I never see another Wheel of Fortune, I might have to do one of Mom's happy dances, Ty." We whooped and hollered about that as we pedaled down the street. Garret was a pro at mimicking Mom, and she had a habit of breaking out into dance if a good fortune befell her. That was about the only celebration we could afford. We boys teased her about how silly she looked, but it was all in good fun. Mom didn't have cause to smile often enough, so we joined her in her antics because it always made her laugh. One school year ended and a long, hot summer began. With age, we grew a little more daring. In the heat of the day, we stayed low and occupied ourselves by reading books we checked out from the local branch of the city library. Garret was an avid reader, and he set the example for me. He encouraged me to read the same series of books that he did, and I felt slightly more grown up being able to discuss books with him. Garret was my mentor and stretched me to strive harder. If I was destined to have an influence on me as a boy, Garret was a good one to have. Technically, we weren't supposed to go to the library by ourselves. It sat at the corner of a busy cross street, and Mom worried when we went there. "Tyler, James, I don't feel comfortable with you boys being so close to Mayfield Way. It's a 45-mile-per-hour zone, and if you dart out into traffic, you could be killed." We finally convinced her on one of her few days off to accompany us. We wanted to prove to her that we knew how to safely use the crosswalk. She breathed somewhat easier about our library escapades after that. My brother developed a love for science fiction stories, as well as paranormals and westerns. Every week, we made our pilgrimage to the library to return the ones we'd read and restock. We left cartoons behind us, and were more likely to watch the Sci-Fi Channel if we watched television at all. Books occupied us for hours on end until the baking sun faded enough that we could tolerate rides around our neighborhood with almost daily trips to the park. We stayed at that park later the older we became. Mom cautioned us that weirdos frequented it at night. However, we pushed the limits of what we constituted a safe hour to remain amongst the potential undesirables. We saw the occasional drunk and a few drug deals go down, but we kept our distance and remained unscathed by the baser elements of society. That was until we reached the ages of 11 and 13. Full of ourselves and feeling invincible, we developed the habit of staying out later and later at the park. We didn't cause any trouble. Usually, we sat by the edge of the urban lake watching the ducks and geese glide across the surface of the water. Sometimes, under a bright full moon, crawdads marched like an army across the manicured grass from the lake to the stream that flowed through the eastern edge of the park. They fascinated us, and we competed with one another to catch the biggest one we could. Sometimes, if we weren't careful, our fingers became caught in the pinchers. We'd yip and break out into laughter. The park was our escape into the natural world. For a time, we could pretend that we no longer lived in a large city. If we stayed late enough for most visitors to clear out, we made our way to the playground equipment. No one could see us acting like 5-year-olds, and the swings and monkey bars gave us simple joy. In that way, we retained a small piece of our carefree childhood days, back when we didn't worry along with Mom about how we'd pay the water bill or what to do about food for the week. As I said, my brother and I were science fiction buffs from an early age. He also became enthralled with astronomy and space in general. His 8th grade class teacher sparked Garret's curiosity about the cosmos. During our nightly trips to the park, we'd lie on our backs in the dewy grass, staring at the stars. Garret pointed out constellations to me, and soon I could identify them on my own. Always looking for ways to impress my brother, I was a quick study. Inspired by the dark heavens, we created epic science fiction tales. Faraway galaxies and battles against evil forces came to life in our imaginations. "You know, Tyler, you should be a writer when you grow up. You come up with the best stories." "Really? You think so?" "I do. You're good at it. I can see you becoming another Asimov or Clark or Bradbury." "You're not too bad yourself. We could write books together, and both of us could become rich and famous." We liked the sound of that, and our eyes sparkled as we gazed into the twinkling night sky. "We'll turn them into movies, too. We can play the main characters, and we'll marry beautiful Hollywood actresses." At that moment, a shooting star raced across the sky. "Whoa, look at that!" We quickly closed our eyes and made wishes. I don't recall what I wished for, but given what followed, it faded into the recesses of my memory. By this time of night, most people had left the park, so we headed for the playground equipment. For the next half hour or so, we felt like little kids again. We giggled and ran from the swings to the monkey bars and then back to the swings. Breathless, we jumped off the swings and collapsed onto the soft grass. Garret rolled over and rose to his hands and knees. I started to do the same when he held out his arm. Wait, Ty, don't move. He focused on the trees just beyond the play area. Dense woods lined the creek bank, and something caught his attention. What is it? I whispered and strained my eyes to see what he was looking at. Over there. Do you see it? What is that? I don't know. Stay still. We watched as someone stepped out from behind one of the trees. Hidden in the shadows, we couldn't make out many of his features. We knew he wasn't a kid because he was too tall. There's something wrong with that guy. He's not walking right. Is he naked? I could hardly believe my eyes. Ew, I think so. When I count to 3, let's run as fast as we can to our bikes and get out of here. He might be one of those perverts Mom warned us about. As Garret counted 1, 2, 3, we kept our eyes on the stranger, who noticed us and stood staring directly at us. Go, go, go! My brother called to me as we raced to our bikes that sat where we'd left them by the edge of the lake. Reaching our rides, we hopped on and pedaled as quickly as we could for home. Breathing heavy from exertion and fear, we allowed our bikes to tip over as we leaped off them at the edge of the carport. The bikes could wait until morning to be put away. We wanted the protection and safety of our house. Ty, that guy was weird. I've never seen anyone naked in public before. I couldn't see him that well, but he sure didn't look like he had clothes on. What a weirdo. Thank you for joining me for this episode of the Into the Night Anthology podcast, written by Caroline Giammanco, narrated by Nari, theme music by Nico Rodriguez. You can find our links in the show notes. Into the Night is on your favorite podcatcher, so make sure to like, subscribe, and leave a 5-star review to help other excursionists to join us. I'll see you next time, and remember, whether in the shadows or in the daylight, all twisted paths lead you into the night. Hi, excursionists. I'm so glad you stayed. If you ever wonder what I'm working on when I'm not here, you can find my current and past projects at narinarrates.com. That's also where you can sign up to be a story in my library, where every story somehow finds its way back home.